Okay, my friends. So Weston said they couldn't hear me. Can you guys hear me? Yay. Cool. All right. Um, let's do this. Let me see how if I forget. I'm doing like I had practiced this yesterday. There's a lot of like technical stuff I'm doing here. Like that it's a kind of a funky setup how I'm trying to do this. This is a new way of doing some of this tech. We're going to do a lot of experimental stuff today. Or not today, this semester. And I'll get the hang of it once we get in the groove. But this is a little bit weird for me to get this set up. So let me do a screen share here, and we'll talk about how this is going to go down and what's going to happen here. But I gotta get gotta get my stuff together here. All right, hang on. Okay. Yeah, it's just totally weird. I have to share my screen, then get the thing keynote started, and then I can see the discussions. Cool. Get this. Um, hey Weston, sorry I can't I don't have time to chat right back to you, but uh yeah, I don't know what is going on there because it seems like everybody else is able to get in there. So let's see. Oh, sweet. This works. Stoked. Okay. I have a lot of screens and a lot of technology happening here. So I'll try to make it work. I'm still working out the key commands. So I have like 4 different pieces of software running at the same time, and I have to open them up in the right order for the windows and everything to show up there. You don't need to keep this window full screen for you if you don't want to. It's just basically what I want to do is I want to use this as a backdrop for kind of the discussion. So normally, the way I do this when I'm talking in real life in front of a real class, that this is usually just in the background, and then I usually do a bunch of talking in front of it. But just because of the nature of the way that we're doing this class on Zoom and as a remote class, it's going to be a little bit weird. But I don't want this to be like a. I mean, I use PowerPoint a fair amount in this class, which I'm an anti-PowerPointer, big time. But you'll kind of see like my style, how this thing goes here in just a minute, but we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But I don't want this to be like just watching the screen the whole time. I think this is going to be more of like thinking and processing. And what we see on the screen here is just meant to be as a reference, not to be like the actual content. Most of the content we're going to be talking about is going to be me doing stuff and doing demonstrations and discussions, but I do have this thing going on here. So here's what's going to happen today. So I'm going to do a quick little introduction and background about myself, who I am, where I come from. So I don't know. I probably, talked to some of you all through emails here and there, but I didn't teach AP1 or anything this semester or last semester. So likely I haven't really seen any of your awesome faces before. So this is going to be the first time I've had a chance to interact with you all. So I just want to kind of give you say hello, what's up? This is what I'm all about. Cause I got to say off the top, this stuff I love. I love acoustics. I know it's super nerdy. I know it's weird, but this is like my jam. And so I want you kind of to understand where I'm coming from, why I like all this stuff. Then we're going to go over the syllabus review real quick, just so you can kind of see what this class is all about and what the expectations are going to be to do. We'll talk about how do I do in this class. And then we're actually doing real coursework today. This isn't just here's how we're doing the class. We're actually going to be doing coursework today. So buckle up, because we're gonna go for it. But it's gonna be super fun. Like I said, this is the stuff that I love. So this is gonna be pretty rad. So yeah, let's talk about this. So let me introduce myself. My name is Jeff Merkel. I am the program director for the Recording Arts. That's why if I've talked to anybody before, that's probably in that capacity. So in other words, I don't necessarily run Recording Arts, but I am kind of administer over the whole Recording Arts area. So if you're not familiar with how it works in the college, so basically we have CU system, CU Denver, and then we're in the College of Arts and Media. And inside the College of Arts and Media, we have 3 departments, kind of four. We have visual arts, which is like all the folks over in visual arts. Maybe you're a visual arts dual major doing something like that. There's all sorts of cool stuff happening in visual arts. Then we have theater, film, and television. And then we also have MEIS, Music and Entertainment Industry Studies, which is us. And then there's also a thing called the DAC, the Digital Animation Center, which is kind of like a little offshoot of some. It's kind of its autonomous thing. But we're MEIS, and inside of MEIS, then we have the music, which is the music department. We have music business, singer songwriter, performance, and then recording arts. So we're recording arts. And so I could say that I'm kind of like the captain of the recording arts department there, but I'm also an instructor here. So of course, so, the program director is just a little bit of a part-time thing, but mostly what I do is I teach, and I teach a lot of stuff. So, my name is Jeff Merkel, but like most people call me Merkel. I go by my last name, and that just comes from like, I don't know. I call all my friends by their last names. I don't know. That was just a thing in my scene growing up. Like we all just call each other by our last names. So that's kind of what I go by. I mean, you can call me Jeff. Of course, that's my name. But like, it's funny because like I have like a few different circles of friends, but my like I would say like my punk rock circle of friends, we all call each other by last names. But and then my like Burning Man set of friends, they all call me Jeff, which is really weird to me. Like nobody calls me Jeff. Everyone calls me Merkel. But my mom calls me Jeff. She calls me Jay. But yeah, you can call me whatever. I don't have my doctorate, so I'm not Dr. Merkel. You could say, if you want to say Professor Merkel, that's fine. I'm not truly a professor, but like, I mean, I am a professor of this class, but my title is an instructor, and which is for another day. We don't need to talk about titles and stuff, but basically I'm instructor and program director. So that's my thing. So where do I come from? Like, what's my story here? Why am I so jazzed about this? And the reason I'm going to tell you this, I'm just going to give yes, I know my last name. Yeah, totally. So on that note, so what I have is right now, I have two screens set up here. So I have my main screen down below, which is what my camera's attached to. And that's the PowerPoint that you're seeing right there. But then above, I have the other screen, and that's where all you all are living, like my Zoom stuff. So you're going to see me look up a lot and down. And also that's where the chat window is. So I will try to keep my eye on the chat window, but it's going to be flying by right there. So it's going to be going in there. So wait, what does it say? Yeah, it's totally a group. This is like big. This is a huge class. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to like read everything right here. So I'll explain in just a minute. Well, I guess right now I'll do the introduction right now. So Carter Keller, can you wave right now if you guys can see him? Carter is going to be our teaching assistant for this class. And Carter is, well, actually, can you hop on the mic? Can you give me your story? Like, can you give a nutshell, like what you're all about? Cool. Sweet. Yeah, Carter's a rock star. He works in the Corps as he's one of the, are you still a Corps monitor this semester? Cool. Yeah, so Carter's been, you've been doing that for, this is your second year doing that? Or is it, how long have you been doing that? Yeah. So Carter does like a lot of the hardcore, like everything from like um like a lot of the troubleshooting in the studios and maintenance and like building stuff and fixing stuff, but also doing things like managing the booking in the studios and gear checkouts and just all things like core. So if you have any questions about any of the core stuff or how that's going to go, Carter's going to be the person to talk to for a lot of this stuff. But I'm going to be using Carter because this class is massive. I think I don't even know what I didn't look like last night, but I think we're like near 80 people in this class. So it's a lot of folks. So what I'm going to ask Carter, so that's why we're bringing Carter on to kind of help assist with some of this stuff. So what Carter's going to be doing is specifically right now during this stuff, like, cause I can't keep my eyes on the chat cause I have to be teaching. And, that so Carter's going to try and answer questions or at least log or anything like that. Or also, like I'll try and stop often and check in, Carter. But also if something like if there's something like a technical glitch or something like that, I'm blasting through. Carter, please just speak up. If you see something pop up in the chat that needs to be addressed quickly, just hit me. Just hit me up. And so also, if you want to hit me up, because I see some people are DMing me right now on the chat, like if there's questions, also DM Carter on the chat as well. I don't know if you can do group DMs, but if you want to DM Carter as we go along here, if you have like some issue, and so Carter, if you can like log any of those things that we need to address, that we can circle back with. But also feel free, like as I'm going along here, I tend to be something of a highly caffeinated person, so I speak fast. Sorry, I know that's just kind of how I roll, but I speak fast. That's because I love this stuff. I'm so passionate about this stuff. So, but we'll try to keep, I'll try to keep it on, but feel free to interrupt anytime. Again, like that's a problem with like doing a little hand raise and all that kind of stuff. And I have a really hard time seeing that because I'm not really watching that screen. So, I will do my best to try and toggle back and forth right here, but feel free to interrupt me anytime you want to. But yes. Yes, I can for a little bit. So I have office hours directly after this class, so that would be a perfect time to chat. So, yes. So feel free, like anytime, like as David just did right there. That's totally welcome. I welcome your conversations coming in right there, because I can't watch the chat because it's like you right now. You guys are hauling ass on that. You guys are really verbose, which is awesome. I love it. Keep talking. But we'll talk about the etiquette here in just a little bit as we go through the syllabus. So anyway, let me talk about myself just for a second, because I love talking about myself. Like, not really. But I just want to explain who I am, what I'm all about, where I come from, just to give you a little bit of perspective. And also just so I can basically, just so you can see like what I do and like why I'm into this stuff and like where this stuff comes from. So I'll give yourself my 5-minute life story in a nutshell. So I grew up in Fort Collins. So I'm a Fort Collins, well, I would say a Fort Collins native. I actually moved to Colorado when I was 2 weeks old from Arizona. So my birth certificate is from Phoenix, but I've never been to Arizona since I was born. Well, I toured through there, but I moved here when I was 2 weeks old in Fort Collins, and I grew up there in Fort Collins. I went to Rocky Mountain High School. If you get any Fort Collins people here, my folks now live in Windsor. They since retired, so I don't get to Fort Collins very often these days, but I still have a lot of friends back up there. But I went to school, so I went to college in Boulder, CU Boulder, and got my degree in biochemistry, which is weird, right? I know, but like, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so so I went to school and I started in biochem, and I really liked chemistry. Although I was just looking at my transcripts the other day, I was a terrible college student. But I went through and I got my degree in college. What I really wanted to do is, though, right when I started college, right at the end of my senior year in high school, I found punk rock. So I was kind of a metalhead. I was like, I grew up playing trombone. So I was in high school and junior high. I played trombone. I was in like every ensemble. I was drum major. I was like really into a lot of that stuff. But I was also a metalhead. So I was like super into metal all through high school, through most of high school. And then my senior year in high school, I ended up going to a punk show. Like full on punk rock show. And I discovered punk rock, and this is 91, that I did that. And so punk rock was there, but it was pretty underground. It's not like, I mean, I won't say punk is mainstream these days, but it's way more mainstream than it used to be. And so when I went to this little punk rock show, and it was at the American Legion in Fort Collins, and it was like everyone had huge Liberty spikes and, you know, the full punk experience. And I think literally overnight I like go, oh my God, this is where I belong. And so I went from metal to punk like in one night. Well, I still love metal, but I became a punk rocker, and I dove in all the way into punk rock. And so when I went to college, I started a band, and we were doing the band thing. And I realized over the course of college, I really wanted to be in music rather than in sciences. But I still liked what I was doing, but I felt like it was the secure thing to do. I didn't know there was like programs like this, the recording arts program. I just didn't even know that thing existed. So I basically went through and got my college degree, and I worked in chemistry for a long time. But all the while I was in college, I was doing the punk rock thing. And so I had mohawks, and I guess from the time I was 17 to when I was about 35, I never saw my original hair color. I had most of the time it was bleached bright white, but I had like yellow, blue, green, all the different colors, piercings, chains, paint, the fingernail painting, makeup, the whole thing, like Liberty spikes. I was doing the whole punk rock thing for most of my life. Can't do it anymore, unfortunately. No more mohawks allowed for this guy, which sucks, but that's the way it goes. So, maybe someday if I ever did any kind of like hair club for men or anything like that, all I want to do is move all of my hair in the back to like, I want a mohawk. That's all I want again. Like, that's the only reason I would want hair again. I don't really care about hair. I don't need it. But like, it would be sweet to have a mohawk again, but that's the only thing. So, so I was in bands and we put out a bunch of records and I toured a bunch. And, but while I was in college, I ended up, this is at CU Boulder, and in the student union there was a place called Club 156, and it was basically a club. And I used to go to shows they had 5 shows 5 nights a week, and I went to every single show every single night. And to the point they're like, dude, you're here every single night. Why don't you work here? I was like, okay, cool. And so they're like, that was my first foray into audio engineering. They basically took me behind the console and they're like, okay, here's how you turn everything on, and you're on the calendar for Friday. And I'd never touched any of that stuff before. I'd been in band. I was in a band, but I had never really touched any of the consoles or anything like that kind of stuff before. So I was like, it completely like threw me into the deep end. And so, and this is like way before YouTube or any of that kind of stuff. And so even social media or even just the internet for that matter. And so like to get information about how to do stuff, it was like trial by fire. And so I just had to learn, just figure it out. So I just dropped in and started figuring it out, and I fell in love with the idea of, so I became a live engineer, and that's kind of how I got my start. So I was going to college for my sciences, playing in band and working as a live engineer. And I did that through all my entire college career. Graduated from college, got my chemistry degree, started working in labs. I was working as a chemist, but we were pretty serious as a band. We'd toured like Europe, we toured the US a lot, we toured some in Canada. But so we were touring like a lot. But then once we graduated, we had to kind of grow up and get jobs. I started working in labs, chemistry labs, doing that sort of thing. And then eventually I'm like, you know what? I'd like to do my own thing. My grandparents came to me and they're like, when are you going to stop doing this silly chemistry stuff and do something real? And my parents are like, no. My dad's a doctor. My mom was a teacher. They knew what they were going to be when they were in like high school, right? Their careers were very linear. If you're sitting in this class right now, you are not going to have that linear of a career. You're going to be hopping all over the place. If you want to work in music or you work in the arts, you're going to have a very diverse career. And as most parents, they just want the best for me. They just want something secure. Like parents want security and that for their kids. So my parents, they're looking at me, they're like, what are you doing with all, they tolerated the whole music thing with the idea that they thought it was going to be a phase. But for me, it was like my passion, just like it is for you. Right. And so they wanted me to, they wanted me to get a real job. So I was doing the chemistry thing and I was miserable. I was working in this lab wearing like hazmat suits. And I mean, I was doing pretty cool, innovative stuff, but it was really dangerous work. And I mean, I did all sorts of chemistry stuff. I worked on laser printers, like the materials. I worked on cancer studies for a while, like on like RNA type stuff. And then I worked in, I worked with lasers for a while. And then the longest one I worked in semiconductors, building these like etching chemicals for the semiconductors. It was not the sexiest work, but it was pretty cool. But I always had this thing, like, I really want to be in music. And my grandparents came to me and they're like, when are you going to stop this silly chemistry stuff and do something real? Meaning start your own company. When are you going to be an entrepreneur? And I was like, okay, cool. So I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I wanted a recording studio. So I took out a loan with them, and I couldn't really start a recording studio, but I found that I wanted to get into mastering. There was very little mastering studios in the area, especially for punk rock. So I basically started a punk rock mastering studio, and that was my jam. And because I was the only one in the neighborhood, I had clients already lined up, and that's what I did. And for me, mastering was really cool because it's technical and it's artistic, and so it really lent itself to my sciences and arts, and that really set the stage kind of for the rest of my career. So I really have like one foot in the arts and one foot in the sciences. So. And that'll become apparent when I talk a little bit more about this stuff. But basically, I was doing mastering. So I started up and I was a mastering studio. And I won't go into the whole thing about how to start a mastering studio. That's for another time. We talk about that in critical listening or mastering, those other classes that I teach, which I will probably see you next year for that class. So after this class, I'll see you next fall for critical listening, likely. So yeah, so basically I just started up this mastering studio and did that. And so I was doing the mastering studio on the side while I was running while I was doing chemistry full time. And then I was at the point where I was like, okay, I think I can make a run at this. And so I quit my job and I went full time with the mastering studio. And I was still in a band sort of, but my band mostly, I quit the band for the most part and they moved on. I still got to go tour with them every once in a while. I did a tour Japan, but they still did a lot more European tours and South America. And some of my friends are still doing like Russia and some of those kind of areas. But yeah, so I did that for a long time. But then while I was doing that, I was pretty poor. Like running a studio is pretty tough. So I went to CU Denver CU Boulder, and I saw that they had this class called Physics of Music and Sound. I was like, dude, that's what I do. I'm teaching, like, I love this stuff. And so I went to the professor. I was like, hey, can I sit in on this Physics of Music and Sound class? Because it was just like a few blocks away from my house. And the teacher's like, dude, you know more about this than we do. You should be teaching this class. So I did. So I started teaching acoustics. So I started teaching the class called Physics of Music and Sound up in Boulder. And this class was like a 200-person class, like the balconies and all that stuff. And that was how I started getting into teaching. And I was a TA at first, but then I started co-teaching the class. And I got really into like teaching. And I thought I was like, this is super fun. So I was running my recording or my mastering studio, and then I was teaching. And then throughout that experience, then I also absorbed a recording studio. And so I became a mastering studio, and then I had a recording studio. And then we combined. And so I just basically had a mastering and recording studio, and I had some engineers. And over the years, I built this studio. It's called 8 Houses Down. It was a really fun studio. And that's actually the building I'm sitting in right now. It was a pretty awesome. So we had a pretty huge run. We basically did hundreds of records through the 90s and the late 90s through the early 2000s. Through the 2000s, we just did a ton of records. But it's hard running a recording studio. And so we had a whole huge analog console, but we were Nuendo based in the back end, but we had huge racks of gear. And then I was running the mastering studio. So I was the owner and the mastering engineer. And then I had 2 engineers that were running the recording studio side of things. And that was basically my job. And then at nights I was teaching on the side as a TA and as a co-teacher up in Boulder. And so that was super fun. I ended up getting married and moved down here to Denver. And then I built out this studio that we're sitting in right now. And, did that for a long time, but I noticed that like over the time, then I went and got my master's degree here at CU Denver so I could become a professor. And so I started teaching at CU Denver in recording arts. And then I started teaching back in physics in acoustics. So I've always had one foot in sciences, one foot in the arts. And so that was kind of like how that was going. And so, yeah, I just kind of like taught the arts and the sciences and the arts. So usually in the recording arts stuff, I would always teach like the techie sciencey classes, and over in the sciences I would usually teach like the artsy kind of classes. So it's kind of a way that kind of weaves me back and forth. And so I got my master's degree in recording arts from here, but then my thesis was in loudspeaker design. And that at the time, because I wanted a whole surround rig, I needed to buy I couldn't afford it because I was really poor. So I'm like, well, why don't I make my thesis building speakers? And so I did a bunch of speaker design, got really into the fabrication and design of stuff, and then got my master's degree. I'm like, shoot, I should turn this into a company. So now I run a company called Merkle Acoustic Research and Design. So this is one of my side companies. So I still have my studio. My studio is called 8 Houses Down. But I also run Merkle Acoustic Research and Design. So basically, Merkle Acoustics is where I do acoustic consulting for things like restaurants and breweries and schools. And like I just spent over break, I got hired to go up to the Four Seasons in Vail and do a whole acoustic ring out of that space. They were selling it, like, for instance, they were selling a $6 million unit, like in the Four Seasons. And there was like a hissing sound from pipes from underneath. And they're like, well, how do we, like, number one, where is it coming from? Number two, how do we deal with it? And then number three is, how can we use this as a negotiating point for our, like, for the price of the sale of this unit. So I got to work with, like, so I got to go up there and spend all this time up in Vail doing all this acoustic measurement and ring out. That was super fun. But sometimes I do stuff like, like a restaurant's like, it's super loud in here. What do we need to do here? Or I do stuff like recording and listening rooms, like for audiophiles or home theaters. I talk about that kind of stuff. But I also do loudspeaker manufacturing, and I build speakers. So I build like super hi-fi studio monitors, but I also build guitar cabs. I got into doing my research right now is I work in 3D spatial audio. So I build spatial audio rigs. So my big project that I'm working on right now is I'm working for CU Boulder, up in Boulder. and I'm building a 40.4 speaker array. So an immersive, like they have a black box theater up there. And so I'm building a 40.4 surround system. So you can make sound like move like holograms throughout the space. So that's what I'm working on right now. So I have a whole shop in the back of my place. So I have a CNC and I fabricate and I build acoustic products and all that kind of stuff too. So while I love teaching, I don't really make a whole lot of money here. So I have to do like 10 different things. And like I was saying, if you're in this career, this music career kind of path, like it's likely going to be you're going to be doing like 10 different jobs. You always say yes to everything and figure it out. Make it till you, or like fake it till you make it, right? So so that's kind of like my gig now. And I also run an artist collective called Signal Noise Media Labs. So basically where we express art through science. COVID kind of put the kink on that, right? Or put the, like, tamp that one down right now. But basically what we do is we meet and we basically hack. We're just a bunch of hackers. And when I say hackers, it's not code hackers, although we do that as well. But it's basically just like tech hackers, where basically we just take, we take science and use it like, and create art with it. So I do a lot of things like art installations for everything from like Burning Man. And so I got really into the Burning Man scene a few years ago, and that's really funded a lot of my art. And I found that actually I make more money in art than I ever did in music. So I have these big spatial audio rigs I bring around to music festivals. So maybe I do like Arise and Sonic Bloom and Apogea and Maker Fairs and that sort of stuff, that I bring these giant rigs around, and I have synthesizers and I teach people how to work in 3D. I teach DJs how to work in 3D. That's my big thing I'm working on right now. So if you're a DJ and you want to work in 3D, come talk to me. I build Max for Live plugins for Ableton. And so basically I build 3D spatial ones. I don't have time to go into it right now. We can talk about that some other day. But anyway, as you can kind of see, I do a lot of different things in a lot of different fields. I mean, to me, it's all the same. It's audio, nerdy, sciencey stuff. That's what I love doing. But it kind of comes from like all the same idea. It's all sound and it's all the science of sound. And that's what I love this class. So this class is very near and dear to me, just because like I probably built 5 studios at this point from scratch. I've soldered probably tens of thousands of connections at this point in my career. Like I've built a lot of cables. Like I still build a lot of cables. I just built like a 48 point. It was probably 400 soldering points like a couple days ago. So I'm building cables still a lot. But I do a lot with the technology and the science and the art of all this stuff. So anyway, that's kind of what I am in a nutshell. So, but like, as soon as we start to crawl out of this COVID thing right here, stay in touch with me. Like if you're interested in doing any of this stuff. So like we go to the planetarium. So we work at Gates Planetarium a bunch. They have a 15.1 in there. So we do immersive sound in there. So I work in like immersive arts. That's kind of my thing these days and I contract for Meow Wolf a bunch. I do like a lot of the just like all over the place, like sciencey sound stuff. But if you're into this stuff and you want to get into more of this, stay in touch with me. Like, we're kind of dark right now because of COVID, but as soon as we crawl out of this, we're gonna start meeting again. Usually we meet on Tuesday nights, and we just, like I said, we just hack. And we have a group of everyone from, we're rooted in audio, but we have computer scientists, we have visual artists, we have performance artists, we have dancers, we have fashion designers, we have like the people that do all sorts of stuff. Like, how do we like meld all these kind of cool art and tech together to do like weird and interesting stuff? We do like robotic stuff, we do machine learning and AI, we do spatial audio, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of like a lot of stuff in here. And part of what my I see my role in this job is, many of you here because you love like making music and performing and the music side of stuff, which is awesome. That's how I got started. But that's only one slice of this massive pie of the audio industry. There's a lot of crazy cool things out there. And so what I want to try to do is show you that there's all these other ways you can apply these audio skills besides music. And of course, I'm into music. I don't play as much punk. I still play some bands every once in a while here and there, but like I've really switched over in the electronic world, just mostly from my Burning Man scene. All my friends are DJs. So yeah, so that's kind of like me in a nutshell. So yeah, I like I'm all over the place, but yeah, so that's me. So let's do this. Let's talk about the syllabus review here. So I want to blast through this just so you can get an idea of what we're going to be doing in this course, what's expected of you, and how this is going to go down. So let me see. Let's see if it'll get me. There we go. Cool. Where's my Brave? If y'all aren't using Brave browser, you should. Anybody here use Brave? I'm curious if anybody's not seen it yet as the browser. It's just a browser. So if you haven't, Brave, I don't know. I read a lot of cybersecurity stuff. I love networking and I love like IT kind of as a second hobby kind of thing. But cybersecurity is a big deal for me, and also just privacy. And I'm not saying like I'm a privacy nut, but Brave browser is amazing. It doesn't track you. Nothing can track you on Brave. And you might be sitting there thinking, who cares if I get tracked? Like, it's not that big a deal. It is a big deal. Getting tracked and profiled and like put into these categories, it's bad. So, and that's a whole soapbox for another day. But if you've not checked it out before, check out Brave browser. It's a French company that built it, but it's built off of Chrome, but nobody can see what you're doing. It's like, I mean, it has private with Tor, and even so you can even go private with Tor if you really want to go anonymous. But this one, if you don't want your ISP tracking you, but this one will keep all the web crawlers and everything from tracking you, which is really important. So anyway, check out Brave. Also for your search engine, like if I do something like I want to register Boom as just as a search, I'm using Quant as my search engine instead of Google. I still use Google, but Quant is another one that it won't track you. So Quant and Boom as a combination are very secure. All right, let's talk about this class. Let's get over here. Audio production for acoustics. Okay. So I'm looking at this from the teacher perspective right now. Let me look at the student perspective. So it looks like what you see. So right now, the way I kind of break this up in terms of modules. So I break it down by week. So it's week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. These are going to change a little bit. This got a little goofed at the end of last year because this is right when we went into COVID. And so this layout got a little goofed up. So this is going to change a little bit. But let's take a look at the syllabus. So over on the syllabus right here, I've got two different versions of it. So I've got the online version of the syllabus. You can scroll down it and just look at everything there. But I've also got the PDF version of it right here. So if you open up the PDF, I just want to download this thing. I'm just like, that's fine. Let me download it. So it's, come on. Cool. So it's by itself. All right, so let's go through the nuts and bolts really quick here. You already know this stuff. You're here. This is my information right here. This is my email. That's my phone number. That's my cell phone number. It's my only phone number. I think it's funny we call them cell phone. Like, I still think it's funny when people say cell phones. You're like, no, this is just phone. Landlines are like landlines. These are just phones now. We're like used to call me on my cell phone. Like, cell phone? Who says cell phone? I think that's just weird. So anyway, this is my one and only phone that I have. So that's this phone right here. You're welcome to hit me up. Like, I don't ever answer my phone just like a phone, like who does anymore. But I mean, I can talk on the phone if we schedule it, but if I don't recognize the number, I don't answer it. But you're welcome to text me. But by far, I would really prefer that most conversations and communication be done through Canvas. Please don't just email me. It works, but I much prefer the Canvas inbox. It's much easier for me to communicate. This is a humongous class, and I'm teaching 4 classes, so it's hard for me to and also I get so much in my regular inbox that it's hard for me to get back to. When it's communicating through here is far easier for me. Whoops. So that's that. Let me zoom in on this so you can see it a little bit better. So here's Carter's information right here. Here's oops, it's not Carter. I misspelled it. Sorry, I'll get that fixed. It's Carter Keller at ucdenver.edu. Same difference. So he's going to be a TA on the course, but I mean, if you need to reach out to him, you can through email. But again, let's try and keep most communication through Canvas. Cool. So I'm not going to read all this. You can read this on your own. But basically, we're talking about the sound and the science of sound. And also, like, with the intent of how do we apply this to recording arts for many years. So this class for years has been taught over in the physics department that I taught it when I was over in physics, called the Physics of Music and Sound. And it was a cool class, but it wasn't taught towards recording arts people. So the recording arts people want to go like, how do I use all this information? It's not just the science of sound, but it's the practical science of sound. So that's what the acoustics is. It's like acoustics is this multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary subject where you're taking in like arts and sciences and math and engineering and architecture. They all kind of converge in this notion of acoustics. So that's what's cool about it. It connects a lot of dots, which I think is really neat. So, so you can talk about this. Yeah, research how it applies to real world applications. So course catalog description, that's in the course catalog, blah, blah. Here's the outcomes. So I want you to have firm grasp on the nature of sound, mathematical understanding of acoustics, and decibels. Measurement and analysis of reverberation times in rooms and halls, being able to understand how to design and treat rooms and absorption. You can read this. I hate it when people read to you. Let's talk, you can read that on your own. But let's talk about the required materials for this course. So really you're going to need a few things, but the only thing that you're going to need to spend money on is this one right here. Well, maybe one other thing. Master Handbook of Acoustics. So this is $20 paperback, $27 Kindle on bookstores. Let me pull up Kindle. So I have it on Kindle and the physical version of this book. If you're in audio engineering at all, you should own this book. This is like an amazing book. This is the book that got me excited about all this stuff. So, like I said, it's like and I'm not entirely sure on this, but this is a really inexpensive book considering how much information is in there. So this is the book right here. Physical book is about that thick. You can also check it out from the library. But you will need this book, and we're going to use this book as the backbone. Unlike a lot of other classes where you have a textbook for the class where you just like passively use that, this book is the heart of this course. I'm going to be talking about, so my job here, so this is the course right here, and my job here is to bring this book to life. So if we let's look at the table of contents. Let's scroll down here a little bit. You can kind of see it over here too, but so we look at like the fundamentals of sound. Levels, well, I guess we can see it right here. Fundamentals of sound levels and decibels, sound in the free field, perception of sound, signals of speech, reflection, diffraction, refraction, diffusion, comb filter, reverberation, absorption, modal resonances, absorption, modal resonance, diffusers, adjustable. And then, so this is all kind of like up to right here. It's like kind of theory-ish stuff. And then from here down is a lot of like practical. How do we put this stuff to work for us? Like isolation. How do we build studio floors? Like sound isolation and site selection. Like how do you decide where to build a studio or a concert hall? So I'm talking about this in terms of studios, but it's also concert halls, and all that sort of stuff. So let's see. Yeah, this book is just amazing. There's some math, but that's very verby right there. But there's some graphs. There's a lot of graphs. But there's not, wow, this is like boring. There's some math in there, but it's mostly like plots. This one's very wordy, this section right here. Most of the section is going to be like, I don't know, like perception of sound. It's going to be a lot of pictures. So we talk about a lot about this stuff. So like I said, this book, and basically I got this book. This is what, the 6th version of it? This is 6th edition. I bought this book in the 4th edition when it first came out. I don't know how many years ago that was. And this is what really spurred me to learn about all of this stuff. And it really set the stage for a lot of my career. This book, I've read this book cover to cover probably 4 times, and I learned something every single time. This book is amazing, and it's very approachable. It's not like most textbooks where you read them, you're like, I don't get this at all. Some of the stuff you may be confused on, and that's fine. But it's like compared to I don't know, physics textbooks, this one's very approachable. So, fan-freaking-tastic book. So yes, check this book out. It is amazing. So it's going to cost you, I don't know, like I said, it's $27 on Kindle. This is what I paid for it when I built the syllabus, but $28. But it's written by these 2 captains of industry. These names you should know. F. Alton Everest is a classic in the industry. Wrote a lot of books about this sort of stuff, and just audio education and critical listening and that sort of stuff. He passed away probably a decade ago, and Ken Pullman picked up so Ken Pullman's written 3 or 4 books that have just become my essential audio Bibles. So he wrote the Principles of Digital Audio, and he lives down in Durango, I think, these days. So he's actually local. So I'd love to get him, and maybe I can get him to come talk someday. Maybe I'll hit him up, see if I can get him to come say what's up to our class. The other thing we're going to need is RumiQ Wizard. So RumiQ Wizard measurement analysis software. So this is free software. You just Google it. Even though I say Google, I'm using Quant. And it works on Mac, Linux, and PC, and it's all free. And it's basically how you do room analyses. And this stuff is free. I can't believe it. This is like one person who wrote this, and I think they're British, and they just give this thing away for free. It's like most of the time you have to pay thousands of dollars for this kind of software, and they're giving it away for free. It's amazing. So, but you cannot use it on your phone, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, it's Java based, but I don't think they made a mobile version of it yet. So that would be sweet though. You could actually request it. Maybe in the forums, you can spend some time there. What's interesting though is so it's free, and I promote this software a lot, is that people will often, people can take measurements, but interpreting them is the hard part. And so that's what we're going to spend time learning how to take measurements and interpret those results. It's going to be awesome. So the other thing you're going to need in this class, and this is going to be kind of weird. So you are going to need a clicker. Anybody used clickers before? Okay. So if you've not used clickers before, I'm a big fan of these. So this is basically, it's I don't have it on my phone right now, but back in the day, and especially when we're on campus, I have a little base station with an antenna, and you can actually they had these physical clickers. They're like these things you go to the bookstore and you buy them, and they're actual clickers. But it seems silly to buy more hardware when we have these, which work pretty stinking good. But we can also use the web and use the browser. So these days we've switched over to using clickers, which is called iClicker. So if I go to iClicker.com, let's do that as let me open that up on a new page. Come on. Cool. So basically what you're going to need to do here, and don't do this yet, but you need to create an account and basically become a clicker. So now you can download the app. So the thing is, I think you get a free 30 days. It's free for 30 days if you've not used it before. But it's going to cost you, after 30 days, it's going to cost you. So here's the physical clickers. We're not going to use those. If you no, you can't actually use those, because you can only use those if we're actually in the same room together. So you're going to have to use the software version of it. But these things are expensive. These things are like $50. Sometimes you can find them on Craigslist and stuff like that. But again, it doesn't matter for us. No, need a 1 year. You can do a 6-month one right here for $16. So what you're going to need to do is basically the way this is going to go down, and I guess I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but throughout the class, we're going to be having in-class quizzes as we go along. As I'm lecturing, there's going to be a question that comes up, and you're going to have to answer the question. And so this is how I get your answers from those questions. So it's an answering system and a grading system, and it also tells me it's a tool. And actually, the reason they're useful is because it helps me. It tells me if I'm doing a good job teaching. If people are bombing on it, that means the whole class is bombing it. But you're going to have a chance to work with each other to get the answers. I'll explain that in a little while here. But you will need to get a clicker. But you get 30 days for free. So you don't need to actually buy this thing for a while. I mean, but this class is like 3 months long though, so you're going to run out of time. So you're going to have to buy a $16 one, and it will come up and get you. So I think all in for this class, you need to spend about $40. So you'll need the book and you'll need the iClicker, and there's just no way around it. The cool thing is though, and so the way this is going to work is you'll have it on your phone. And so when we're doing the lectures, you'll just have your phone up, or you can also do this in the browser too. The problem is it's hard, you have to use 2 screens, but it works fine. But in your phone, that way you'll have your phone and you can just click. It just becomes like a multiple choice answering tool. That's really what it is. But, yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about clickers here in a little bit, but you're going to need that. So the other thing, if you were to recommend it, oh shoot, I don't have all my stuff in here, but is a measurement microphone and audio interface. So if you want to get serious about doing this, hang on one sec. My interface is right here. Let me grab it. So I have a bunch of interfaces, but this is one of my more expensive ones. This is my Motu. Which one is this one? This is the Ultralight Mark IV. So this is an expensive one. This is like an $800, $600 interface. This is not what I would recommend for this. But what I would recommend is something like a 2-channel basic audio interface. any interface will work. And again, if you're in recording arts, you should probably have some sort of interface at this point. But I mean, you don't have to have one, but it does help. And so I have like 3 different 2-channel interfaces that I've just acquired over the years, like Focusrite 2i2, and I have a Motu, which one is that one called? The newer one, the 4-channel one. Those are awesome, but like you can buy them used on Craigslist or on eBay or on even Amazon for under $100, and they work great. And then in terms of measurement microphones, you can go get ones for like $40. So again, don't go out and buy it specifically for this class, but if this is something that you're interested in, like, let's talk about it. We actually have measurement microphones in the core for checkout. If you want to check those out, we have 40 of them. So you don't actually have to go buy it. And so if you want to do the extra credit project, you will need to use an interface and a measurement mic. But like we said, you don't have to go spend any money. You can just borrow some from the core. Interface, I don't think we have checkout interfaces from the core, but we could make that. We could probably put that together if we need to. So, okay. Well, but we have some of those. I'm sure we have some of those Steinbergs that we could allocate. We could start checking those out, I bet. But for short terms, not for like semester long things. So I'll talk to Scott about that. But you're right. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, so let's just I'm not going to go through everything on the calendar here. I just want to show real quick what's going on here. Go away, header. So this is basically, if we look at the, you can read that if you want to, but what I care about here, like the reading. So it goes chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then we kind of hop over to 21, 22, 23, 24, 26. But you can see we're blasting through that book. That's pretty much, like I said, the book is the course. And for many years, I used to use different books, for different reasons. But this book just kicks so much ass. So we're going to have homeworks. So we have homeworks due every week. This is a very traditional kind of college course where we have a midterm, we have homeworks, midterm, and a final, and a textbook. This is kind of like your classic structure for a college class. Unlike many of your other recording arts classes, which are going to be very project-based and that kind of stuff. This one, we will have some project stuff in it, but it's going to be woven in there in a different way. So it's going to be kind of your fairly straightforward kind of traditional type stuff here. But we do have a midterm, but we have, of course, spring break is at a weird time this year because they pushed that back. But yep, so that's you can go look through all this stuff. Can see kind of the pace, like these ones right here. These chapters we're blasting through, just hitting the high points on those ones right there. And on a lot of these chapters, we're not hitting every single point in the chapter. It's just too much information. But I want you to be exposed to all of this stuff in here, because like what you're going to come out of with this class is you're going to be pretty solid on this stuff. So evaluation, class questions. So basically, there's going to be questions throughout the class. This is also an online version of this class. So if you're watching this as a pre-recorded version, then this is the online version of the class. But basically, we're going to have class questions throughout the class, and the way it's going to be done is those questions are the clicker questions. So I'm going to pose a question up there, and then you're going to have 2 minutes to figure out what that question answer is. But we're going to do breakout rooms. They're going to be like quick fire breakout rooms. Basically, we're going to pose a question, go to the breakout room. You're going to hop over there and confirm with everybody in your group that, yes, did you guys all, I want everyone to make sure that they have the same answer. You click in your answer and then you come back. And it's a way to kind of meet each other. One of the problems with this whole COVID thing is that you're not hanging out with each other. Like, you guys aren't meeting each other. And so I want you to have a little bit more interaction amongst your peers. And so this is a big class. So there's going to be we're going to work out the technology on the stuff. It's evolving, but basically in the middle of class, and it also makes it so I'm not talking the whole time. I hate it when I'm talking the whole time. I want you guys to be talking. So you're going to be doing these little breakout rooms and going over there and basically confirming the answers. So we're going to have homework, which is called quizzes on Canvas, and then we have exams, and then there's an extra credit project. So the extra credit final project is you have the ability to go through and ring out a room. So basically, I want you to profile a room. So basically, you're going to measure a room out, model out the room resonances. It could be a concert hall. It could be your bedroom. It could be your studio. It could be a rehearsal space. It could be whatever you want it to be. But you want to go through and measure it out and model it with mathematically model it. And then you're going to acoustically measure it. And then you're going to come up with a treatment Like, does it need more diffusion? Does it need more absorption? And if it, like, how much of what and what type? And come up with an acoustic plan, and also do a ring out an analysis and a measurement, and go, okay, I know what this room needs, what needs to happen in this room to make it sound good. So and you can get up to 5 points of extra credit, 5% of the grade of your grade of extra credit in that one project. So if your grade's hurting a little bit, it kind of brings it up. But also, I mean, above all, this is not an exercise in like making you do something annoying. This is what I do for real. I do this for a job. And so this is job training. So if you do this, the cool thing is, like, if you go through and you do the extra credit project, you can actually start making money doing this stuff. You'd be surprised. Like, people will hire you to do this stuff. You can go in and go, I'll do a room ring out for $200, and people will hire you. I won't say all day, every day, but like you can like actually do this stuff and make a good little side gig or a full-time gig off this if you wanted to. So one thing I said in bold thing here, there's no submitting late homework or makeups. This is tough because the way I do my homeworks is, when I post a homework, you get 2 chances at it, but you can't see the answers until the due date. And once the due date goes, everyone can see the answers. And so the problem is, if you turn your stuff in late, you have all the answers. So you can't turn it there. So there is no late homework. So that's kind of sucky. But the good news is you get to drop your lowest score. And that's that's good. So if you're like, uh-oh, I forgot one, then I'm hosed. But they're also like, homework's worth 50% overall. And there's 13 or 14 homeworks. So, and you get 1 free one. So if you bomb one, or if you miss 1 or 2, like, I wouldn't say 1 or 2. Well, if you miss 1, you're okay. But if you miss 2, that's going to start causing problems. So in other words, it's a reasonably flexible situation. But the catch is staying up on the homeworks right there. And the exams are going to be all online, of course. But there's a midterm and a final. And the final is cumulative of the entire semester. Here's the breakdown of the grades. Just use Canvas. Attendance participation. So I don't take attendance in this class, but you are going to be getting like clicker questions. And so, or if you're doing this as an online class, you're going to have inline quiz questions that happen like basically as you watch the lecture, it's going to stop and you're going to have to answer that question, and you're going to continue on. And so you're going to get quizzed on that way. So the participation the attendance is done by default because you can't get the questions if you're not actually in class. And like I said, there's no makeup for this. There just can't be. There just is no way to do that. So if you're gone, and the good news is though, if like for whatever reason, if you have to bow out because you're sick or something like that, you can, missing a day or so of clickers isn't going to kill you. But if you miss a bunch of them, it is going to really hurt your grade. So it's 15% of your grade. So if you're missing a lot of those questions, it's going to bring you down pretty quick. So you have to be here. The cool thing is it makes the class way more fun. So like, cause you're actually doing stuff. You're not just watching me talk. You actually get to do things and talk to each other and stuff. So you're actually like participating. So that's pretty sweet. Zoom etiquette, real quick here. So in terms of this, I'm not going to be watching your Zoom too much, but please, under your name, you can be called by your first name, whatever you want to be called by, your nickname or your chosen, like you can choose your name. But for your last name, please use your real last name, so that I can correlate those to the actual, like what's going on there. And then cameras. You don't have to keep your cameras on. I'm not going to require you to have your cameras on, but if you don't, please don't have a black screen. Please put a picture of yourself up there. Cause one of the things I have a real hard time with this Canvas, with this Zoom stuff, is that when we get back on the campus, you all are going to know me because you see me a lot, but I don't get to see you. And so I want to start seeing your faces, and it doesn't have to be a moving picture of you, but I want to see who you are so that when we're high-fiving in the hallway, I can be like, oh yeah, I remember that person. Cause like, I want to be able to like, get to know you. And I would say like, one of the things you need to do in this program, as a little like college advice, is get to know your professors outside of class. We are the conduits to your industry and to the industry. So if you're like looking for jobs, internships, opportunities, all of us in the recording arts, we have kind of different fields of interest and networks. And so getting to know us outside of class through like office hours or just like how we're working, that's how you kind of build your network. And so get to know us. And so like reach out, like that's what we're here for. We teach this stuff, but we live this stuff. We like all of us in recording arts, we do this professionally. And so Like we have a lot of connections and stuff, so get to know us. So anyway, so I want to get to know you, and it's hard on Zoom, especially with class this big. So I will do my best, but it is kind of is what it is. Microphones, keep your microphones off, but please feel free to use them. Thank you for everybody that's already been using them and chiming in. That's awesome. On chat, feel free to use the chat. Obviously, the chat is a great way to talk and communicate. Like I said, it's hard for me to watch the chat going by. I'm glancing at it every once in a while, but it's hard for me to keep track of what's happening as it's going blasting past there. So I'm relying on Carter to kind of monitor the chat. So and I can go back and look at it if we need to, but for the most part, I'm not going to be looking at that. So like I said, there's no late work submission. This is a brutal class. It's just too big. It's like a giant ship. For me to be changing course like because of one person, it's really difficult. So I have to kind of mitigate that, or I have to balance the load with the flexibility of this class. So if you have special needs, please talk to me. I'm more than happy to make any accommodations that are needed. But you need to have an accommodations letter from disability offices, and we can make sure that happens. Just please reach out and make sure that happens. Discrimination awareness. So there is a zero tolerance policy for any kind of discrimination of any type, be either age, race, sex, gender, any of that kind of stuff. We're in a time of very heated and short fuses going on, and just a lot of polarization. And we want to try and tamp that down as much as we can. And so if you ever notice it, or if you feel any kind of feel any negative I won't say vibes, but intentions towards you, please talk to me. And that goes especially in the chat right now too. I see the chat flying by. Please keep that chat civil. For me, what's happened in the past, if you have two friends that are good buddies on chat that start giving each other a hard time, someone lays into somebody else saying, ha ha ha, you suck. And it looks like it looks like banter to them because friends, but to the rest of us, we're like, wait, whoa, what's going on? And things can flare up very quickly. So please keep it civil. We're in the arts, and part of the arts is expressing yourselves and making, and sometimes ruffling feathers, but this isn't the class for that. This is a class for keeping it pretty tame. We're talking about science, right? So please keep it civil. But also, if you have any issues, please come talk to me or my boss, Richard Strasser, who's the department chair, or if you need to, you can go above that as well. Some things may change. I'll let you know if things change. The course calendar and the subject material may change a little bit throughout the course. Just given the Zoom thing, we may have to change the pace of the class as it goes along here. Cool. Let's wrap that up. Okay. So let's get back to a couple other things here. How to do well in this course. Do all the reading. Yeah. It's all the reading. Yes. And actually do it twice. And actually, I would say do reading before and after class. So my job is to bring this content to life. When you're reading this stuff on a flat page or screen, it's not very real. So the way that to really make this stuff make sense, that is if you read it and then I'll talk about it and you'll be like, oh, and also you can ask questions about it too, coherent questions. And then if you I can read it again, you're like, I get it now. It makes a lot more sense. Last semester or last year when we did this class, the people who did really well in this course did exactly this stuff right here. And people with physical books, they will take highlighters, and highlighting is a great one. It's harder to do with Kindle. You can highlight, but it's not the same as a physical book with highlighter. So you feel free to hack that book apart, write in the book, draw pictures, highlighter it, put that book to work, use it. Talk to your classmates. So there's the discussion. So it looks like you guys are talking up in the chat, about how to contact each other. There's even temptations to do things like a Discord or kind of thing. But really what I want to do is use the discussion section right here and actually use it. This discussion right here, go through and oh, cool. Very good. Nice. Aiden already wrote one in there. Hell yeah. That's awesome. Use these discussions as a way to talk to each other. And there's you can do some pretty neat stuff in Canvas. You do video recordings and you can embed media really easy. So I would encourage you to use that right there. I'll try to keep an eye on this one as well myself, but use the discussions. That's probably the easiest way to do, like, talk to each other in the class. But and then also make sure you do all the homework. Like, and it kind of goes without saying, but it's easy to let that stuff slide. It's like easy to not go to the gym. But if you stay up with the homework, it's really going to help keep your sanity and keep your grade up. And I don't know, just keep it in there. I realize that this class is a required course. That means we have a wide array of motivations to be here. Some people are going to love this. Some people are going to be like, I hate this. Like, this just does not speak to you. And that's fine. But I'm hoping to inspire you to, like, really like this stuff. Like, as a professional engineer, as a recording engineer, as a mastering engineer, as a musician, this stuff will serve you so well. So it's worth the investment. It will pay dividends so much in your career in so many other ways that you may not have even considered. You don't even know this stuff exists. So anyway, all right, let's do it. So we only have a few minutes here, but I want to dive in and kind of give you a taste of what to expect in this class and how this class is going to go down and what these discussions are going to look like here. So let's do this. So let's start off. And so the way I do, like, my PowerPoints, they look a lot like this. So I try to have very few text on my PowerPoints right there. So let's start off. Let's talk about this idea. So what is sound? I'm going to take a look at this. Type it in the chat. What is sound? I just want to get a vibe for what you think. Or if you want to hop on the mic. Give me what you got. What do you think sound is? I love that. Wiggly air. That's badass. Totally stealing that. Yes. Dig it. Yes. Good observation there. Cool. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, and maybe you guys already talked about some of this, like, you know, acoustic theory stuff. Did you guys cover any of this in AP1 at all? I'm curious. Like science of sound stuff? Okay. Yep. Cool. So you guys have a great kind of grip on this, but I'm going to go through my definition here. So it's flying by there. So most of what I saw up there was pretty good. You know, everybody's throwing up one word answers right there. You're like, well, what a sound. Like, I love the wiggly air one. That's like badass. I think that's a great one. But, obviously, it's a little more complicated than just a one-word answer, right? It's not just frequencies. Yes, frequencies play into it, but that's not necessarily it. So let's go with this definition right here. So basically, it's an auditory sensation in the ear and a disturbance in a medium that causes that sensation. So this is a fairly technical, like a kind of discussion. I can keep my eye on the clock here. What do we got on time? Okay, 12:03. So it's an auditory sensation in the ear and a disturbance in a medium that causes this sensation. So effectively what we're saying here is that we need to have three things for sound to happen. We need to have something that creates a disturbance. We need to have a medium that disturbance can travel through. And then we need to have an auditory, we need to have a receiver, which is an ear. So again, we need three things. We need a medium, a disturbance in the medium, and a receiver. Those are the three things that we need to have sound to effectively call sound. So this is this classic one right here, right? A tree falls in the forest and no one's here to hear it. Doesn't make a sound. Well, what do you think? Oh yeah, thanks, Carter. Yes, all slides will be posted on Canvas. So if a tree falls in a forest and there's no one here to hear it, doesn't make a sound. According to my definition. Correct. So what we're saying here, we're saying, so there is such thing as a vibration. So if a tree falls in a forest and there's no one here to hear it, what we're saying is we're not saying that it didn't actually create vibrations and disturbance in the medium, because it probably did. That vibration happened, but we're defining sound as a perception, as the perceived vibration. So in other words, we have to, that's according to this technical definition. It's obviously a little fuzzy right here, right? So there's this fun description. Like we use this. So where did this term come from? Does anybody know why do we even use this? Like what is, if a tree falls in the forest, like what's the quandary here? What's the philosophical quandary? Like why is this even a saying? Go ahead. What were you gonna say? Yeah, quantum physics. You're on this. You're on the right. You're on the path. I get it. Well, so okay. Uh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. So it has less to do with this notion of sound, but what is real. It's this the broader philosophical context of how we take in the world. Like in other words, I'm looking like straightforward right here. How do I know that there's nothing behind me? And that when I turn around real quickly and I look behind me, that I'm like, oh wait, there is something there. But how do I know it didn't just pop into existence? So it gets into these much more deep philosophical questions of reality and that sort of thing. But for us, it's kind of a fun little just jaunt into this because it's applicable to this notion of sound. But it has some deeper philosophical like discussions and implications with that. So way outside of the scope of this course, but it is kind of interesting to talk about it there. So okay, yeah. So that's so we're just kind of like building on this idea. What about this one? Does anybody ever remember the tagline for this one? Yes, actually, it's slightly off there, but you got close there, right? In space, no one can hear you scream. So I love that one, right? You know, like that's the tagline for this film, and I just imagine what it must have been like sitting around like the pitch of this, like for the so whoever came up with that, like oh, I'm like ooh, that's like it's sinister and it's scientifically correct, which is rad, right? So why is there no sound in space? Yep. I'm sorry, you guys are all right. No, you guys all said it. I think you all got it right there. So there's no medium, right? So I apologize. Yes, and feel free to like all hop on the mic. I love it that you guys are all jumping in there, and of course on the chat as well. So like that's awesome. Like that everybody's hopping on there. I really appreciate that. So yes, I think it's really cool, and I love this notion of the sinisterness that goes along with it. So that that again that yeah in space no one can hear you scream. I just think that's so cool. So and we'll try and maybe do some demos with something. It's harder. Like one of the things I love about this course, and this is what bums me out big time about doing this on a Zoom thing, is I love doing demos. Like demos are the best. Like it's one thing to talk about it and to just like see pictures on a screen, but it's quite another to actually physically do that. And this is one of those branches of science that it's really tangible. It's not like astrophysics. Like, I mean, I love astrophysics. I think it's cool. Or even like, we'll say like microbiology or something like that. That's really cool too. But both of them, well, I guess microbiology you can still see under a microscope, but like atomic physics or theoretical chemistry, or we talk about like these other kind of things, but something like geology is fun because you can actually see it. You can't see the time happen over geology, but you can see the effects of geology. But acoustics is one of these like branches of physics where we can actually interact with it. Like this stuff is real. It's like we can perceive it, and it's not like you know it's within our it has to do with our human perception of stuff. So that's why I think this stuff is really pretty fascinating. But the thing that we need to know is that both sound is both objective and subjective. So objective is observable physical phenomena, and subjective is our interpretation of it based off of sensory information. This is where things get kind of funky. So in other words, that we have two different things. Like, so there's the physical thing that's happening. That's the objective version of it. So yes, a speaker is moving at 220 hertz and outputting the sound that's traveling through the air, and the sound is traveling at a speed. But the way we perceive it is subjective. So there's these two sides of it, and so and I think it's worth noting because like this is I ended up talking about this like to I don't know my parents' friends and stuff like that a fair amount. But we have these terms that I want to kind of hit on right here. Well, I guess you could also say like, you could say that science is to art what objective is to subjective. So like the science would be the objective and the art is the subjective. That's a bit of a stretch, but that's kind of like the science and the art side of things right there. But you could say that objective is like what's there. Subjective is what you perceive it as being there. So we have these kind of two sides to it. So like when we talk about sound, so on the objective side and we have the subjective side. So let's talk about, so we have objective, which is going to be what we call frequency. which is given in hertz. It's cycles per second. We all have kind of like, well, from AP1, we have a discussion on what cycles per second is, but we're gonna spend more. We're gonna get in not heavy deep because there's not a ton of math to do with it, but there is some math that can happen with that right there. But the subjective side of that is what we call pitch, right? Oops, why didn't it not go? Is pitch. So we have objective. So frequency is what's there. Pitch is what you hear as being there. And it's weird because what we hear and what's actually there can be two different things. And so that you can play tricks on your brain. So based on how loud something is, your pitch actually shifts. So pitch is your perceived frequency. So that's how we could say that. And then we have like what we call waveform, which is the shape of the wave, but we perceive that as timbre. So timbre is perceived waveform. And then we also have amplitude, which is going to be considered what we would consider loudness. So how loud is something? So amplitude is the displacement of the air molecules, or we could look at in terms of a waveform, how high and how low it goes away from its equilibrium. But the way we perceive that is because it's pushing our basilar membrane, pushing and pulling. We're going to perceive that as being how loud it is. And something with a large amplitude is going to be perceived as loud. Something with a smaller amplitude is going to be perceived as quieter. So let's just do this real quick. Let's put this to work. So let's go over to Wavelab here for a moment. Where did it go? Is it minimized? Okay. So I have some demos here, and this is also just kind of spin us up. I believe you all have used Listen To before for some of your other classes. I hope that you used it before. If not, let's let me log in here. Why is it log in? I'll log in there. So I'm going to copy this link. I'm going to paste this in paste this to everybody. Log in right there. Carter, could you copy that and have it in your thing? So if you have to, if people miss it, that they can, the chat goes by, you can paste that back in there. And I'm going to start this transmission here. So what I've done here is we're going to be using Listen To sometimes in this class, not tons, but some in this class. So I've got my transmitting here. So cool. Oops. Let me up that. I only allowed, let's do 100. Yes, we hear a sound there. I need to bump this up. Am I allowed to only have 40 people? This could be a problem if I can only have 40 people. I didn't know there was a limit. Let me, Okay, well, that's sucky. Wait, I'm sorry. You can put it in the groups? Oh, right. Yeah, I think we only have 2 minutes here, so I think we're not gonna we're just gonna have to go with it right now. So, just if unfortunately if you're not on here, I apologize. You'll get the gist of it, because we just have to move here. I just want to make sure that was enlightening. This is the largest class I've ever used that on. I'll have to look into that, see if I can get more clients on there than that. I maybe could do two. Can I do more than one instance of it? Let's do Untitled. I'm just going to do this one. Let's log in on this one. Copy link. Here's one that's, if you're not logged in on that, you can try that one again. Okay, I guess I can run more than one client at a time. Cool. So that gets us to 80. That should get us just right for this class. Okay, I'll hide those for now. Let's get this out of here. Okay, so what I have here is basically a sine wave at 440. Zooming on this thing, you can see that we have a sine wave. We're going to talk a lot more about sine waves coming up next class. But I have a sine wave, and so if we want to look at something like pitch, right? So here's a sine 440, which we know is an A440. So I'm using Wavelab right now. You're going to see me use Wavelab throughout the semester. This is my mastering environment that I use. It's a different kind of workstation than your traditional DAW. I'll use Ableton and I use a lot of different stuff, but this is my main one for like sciencey type stuff. It has a lot of cool metering, and there's a lot of good reasons for using Wavelab, but I'll use other DAWs as well. But for right now, if I just listen to this. Oops, I didn't do, there we go. Cool. All right. So we got 440. Let's do 550. Keeps changing here. I did this one at 44.1 and this one at 48. So let me do sample rate change. I guess we got to get out of here. So let's do this. I'm gonna stop this for now. That was a good little just warm up, just getting into the class, but we're going to talk more about this. We're going to start talking about simple harmonic motion next class and talk about springs and some of the restoring forces there. But I wanted to do a little demo. I'll bring this demo back up maybe next class a little bit and just talk a little bit about the timbre and some of that stuff just a little bit. But we don't really need to spend too much time on that. So let's call it there for today. So I'm going to stop the recording here. But if anybody needs to stick around for a few minutes, I have a few minutes here of my office hours, but then I have another class at 1:45. So I can stick around and talk for a few minutes here. But